Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK, and welcome to the second intermission video for my Umineko When They Cry Let's Play here on the channel. This is after episode 6. The previous intermission video was after episode 5, both of which have been streamed, or I'm currently streaming this. Good old past, present, future sort of situation, but yeah, we are here yet again with my collection of videos. And I am using those as a way to quickly glance back into the past and also, just be able to very quickly go through events that have occurred, as well as theories that I may have come up with. Though the latter I'm not really looking for. We do have some plans, or we have a plan of action to follow for this intermission video, where last time I was kind of just jumping around. There were specific moments that I wanted to revisit. I don't really know if I got anything out of those specific moments, but nevertheless, I really wanted to revisit those moments. And I was also given suggestions through the live chat as to what else I can check out. So if you want to, just kind of see what I covered there, what theories I came up with, which kind of set me up for my thought processes going into episode 6, definitely go check that out. I have absolutely no idea which part number that was, but please, just, you can find it in the playlist for sure. I've labeled it appropriately. But here, the plan of action is we are going to go back through and we're going to look at certain events. There are a lot to look back at because I've been given a cheat sheet of sorts. And we're also going to look at red truths and then just anything else. I've got like 3 main things to cover. And I really don't think I can do that all in one stream, in one session here. I think it will not be possible, but we got to try. So to start off, I did not label anything correctly in my OBS, so bear with me. Perfect, I clicked the right one. This huge comment here is by Anonymous, and Anonymous prepared this basically for me to go back through and look at the mysteries and notable moments through all of my videos, all of Umineko up to this point, to see if I can decipher anything with my current post-episode 6 knowledge. This is incredible. And I know Anonymous is here in the chat right now, so Anonymous, thank you very much for this. Thank you so much for preparing something like this. And I will not be able to go through all of this today, but I at least want to get through a chunk of it. And a chunk may not even be the majority of it, but at least we can get through some of the earlier on things, because those are the moments that I've definitely forgotten the most. So we'll definitely jump into that. And then what we're going to go and do is we're going to visit the red truths. We are going to go back through. This is also my Discord server, by the way. We're going to look at the red truths. We're going to look at what has been provided to us in terms of, I guess, moments or statements that I have absolutely forgotten. There is a lot of context that is missing. So this isn't really like a huge priority, but I will want to skim them. And then, okay, Quizip, they left me a comment. They messaged me on Discord asking if I can cover this. And then if there's anything else that's on my mind after all of these things, then I will, I'll jump into those moments or go and search for them or talk about them. But like I said, there's so much that I really don't think I can cover everything. I really don't think so, but I have to try. So, like I said, we're going to start off with this. TJ was saying that the answers may have just been spelled out to me in some sort of way. I kind of doubt it, because I feel like the answers were kind of given to me in so many various ways through many videos and even the last intermission. However, I am dumb, so I won't be able to latch onto things oh so correctly. If you do feel like that there's a lot of a sense of obvious, context clues or anything, you don't have to say anything. But, you can give me that nudge if you oh so please. Though I will say going into this, I came up with quite a few theories as to, you know, how things could have been going down at the end of the previous video, where Battler could have been a sibling to Kinzo. But something else that I was thinking during my mini break that I've had here is that maybe Battler is a form of reincarnation of Beatrice himself, because love is such a huge thing, and love seems to have been a factor that led to the sin committed by Battler whenever he, dipped out from the family, or before he dipped out from the family, or maybe even after. Somewhere around that 6 years ago moment, I feel like he kind of set things up in a way where things we've been seeing is just kind of like a, not personification, but a reflection maybe of how things actually went down. I know it sounds a little silly, but if you kind of look at how things are now at the end of episode 6, Battler won the game because he became the witch himself. He joined that side. So just little, bits and pieces there that I've kind of thought about during my mini break, which I absolutely needed. But let's just jump in here. Let's see what our first area to jump into would be. And I need to adjust my whole setup here, because if I don't, I will not be able to see the chat. So we're going to start with part 1. We're going to go to 19 minutes in or so. Oh, Kinzo, you silly man, you. It's interesting because it sort of seems like he craves Beatrice, yes, but he would just prefer... Okay, he's offering up his life. If you offer your life, then you won't be able to... Okay, shut up. He's offering up his life, but at the end of the day, he's offering up everybody else. So, kind of interesting to consider. Kinzo makes a large rant about Beatrice. Actual motive takes a lot of time to clarify. I mean, it's love, right? Supposedly. However, we've come to realize that Kinzo doesn't necessarily have love. So maybe there's that to consider. And that's why he can't see Beatrice anymore. Is Beatrice our personification of love? I don't know. I mean, yes, old age. And he's definitely past his... You know what? That's something I predicted. I knew it. I knew that man was not alive. He definitely did not survive past his estimated, expiration date, if you will. Strangely enough, Kinzo was already dead here. What is this supposed to be? Okay, so interestingly enough, he's calling the miracle Beatrice coming back, where the miracle for the other side is the fact that everybody lives, So that's an interesting thing to consider. I'm being told the part 11 one is an interesting one, so we'll skip ahead to that one, sure. However, there was the statement made at the end of episode 6, which I guess now contradicts this. I mean, here at this moment, we think it's 18 people, but really it's 17 people. And even if they're, I don't know, it's fucking confusing shit. Yes, you are right, TJ. That's what I'm looking for. This was Maria's. So as we've come to know Maria a little bit more, is that she's got an imagination, a very powerful one at that. I really don't think at this point that she was given an umbrella. I think that I mean, this has happened previously too, where it's a situation where she supposedly came across somebody and events occurred, the letter... I don't know. I think it's an interesting situation where either she's in the loop somehow and she's just, her mentality is not, alarming her that this is bad, or I don't know, but I really don't know if there was another person that could have done this either. Was everybody accounted for in this situation? Obviously, I can't remember. What's weird is that Genji isn't like... Yeah, cleaning it is fine, but also what the... Genji's not really fazed by this. And something that's been, told to me very early on is that, as cool as I think Genji is, coolness factor does not completely erase him from being a potential culprit or being involved in some sort of way with events. It's really hard to say, especially since now we know Genji has some sort of connection to a character on the witch's side, Renove. I mean, their names are very similar. So we can't really count him out, but also we can kind of see this as very, very close to how things went down in episode 6 with the killings. The closed rooms, for example, was Natsuhi's room a closed room, and maybe the culprit didn't realize that this was the fact of the matter? When you get to the murders, remember to apply Nox. Make note of what Battler actually observes and what's shown to you as the reader. Ah, that's tough. We've covered Nox so many times. Like, a ridiculous amount of times in these 2 episodes, but good idea. Remember how in episode 6, Beato the Elder told Chick Beato, is that actually her name, Chick Beato? How at first she started with window pranks to gain initial power, and the 2 have different magical weaknesses. Yes, so the Elder was definitely more like on the prank side, and not being able to really do too much other than that. Like, it really was just to the level of pranking. It didn't seem like there was ill intent, but then you actually have the younger Beatrice, who did not actually have this, Babytrice. She did not have these weaknesses. However, she was able to do a whole lot more. She was actually able to kill people. It was like there were 2 sides of the same coin, and those 2 sides were definitely different but the same.
Yes, Goda. I think Goda's dead.
Yeah, Goda died. I was also kind of thinking about Shannon a bit during my little break. I wonder about Shannon. I wonder not necessarily too much about George, but I do wonder about his parents, including, yes, Hideyoshi. Definitely including him. I mean, as it's been stated before, everybody wants money. Everybody's desperate. We're definitely in like desperation for the parents. But there's a little bit more going on here as well, you know? Like, there's reason for Ava not to like Shannon. Maybe the same can go for Hideyoshi. And do we know for a fact that all these people here in this shed are dead? Like, it doesn't seem like we're getting a full, like, view here of Shannon specifically.
He handed her the ring. She hesitated. Impression that was revived in George's mind.
That seems to be avoided
Hideyoshi looked down upon
for the
Shannon's
sake
body
of
lying at his
George's
feet.
sanity.
Just like the other bodies, it was a peek
yeah,
out.
exactly. We didn't
No
have the
happened.
red truth to
Hideyoshi
verify
slapped his
these
hands over his eyes.
facts.
These are just awful thoughts. How brutal.
But also,
If her face
Battler
was going to be
isn't
crushed
looking
anyway,
at everybody
and if only all
as
of it
well.
had been crushed.
I think another person to really ask some questions about is Kanon. We have come to a conclusion in the previous episode that they, like, neither one of them could have lived. Or both of them could not have lived. Only one of them could have necessarily survived. We just weren't necessarily shown how or why. So in this case, it was George and Shannon's duo that failed. So we see this response out of Kanon. Very unfazed, like, sure, there's a little bit of emotion, but not enough for him to fall apart. And these two are fairly close. So what's going on here? That, or there's more to it that Kanon is not sharing with us, you know? It's hard to say. He does get emotional later on whenever he's like, he's chasing somebody, you know? And then he dies, which is very strange. But there could also be a situation of people faking their deaths here and making it look very, very believable. Because I don't think Nanjo verified the deaths of everybody here. He may have, but we also, I don't know, could there be a fake body situation going on here? I don't remember what, like, I predicted initially, and I also don't recall, I don't recall what has been verified post episode 1 by Beatrice. I really don't remember. But I feel like we are definitely being played with either we have people switching around, we have fake bodies, we have more people running around here than we think even now. Like, not saying that there's more than 17 or 18, I'm just saying that in terms of alive people. But can we also say that something along these lines is very much the deaths that occurred here are because of love, that love had a say here, you know? There had to be a split between the duo. George and Shannon's duo was split. And the deaths that occurred here, whether Hideyoshi and Ava were involved in some sort of way, I mean, Ava did not like Shannon, but this is still a Kanon versus Shannon thing. At the end of the day, in every episode, they both can't survive. That's just how it is. It's as if Kanon killed her, and like, it's as if he didn't fully want to, like there's regret or something. You have to figure out is why that's the case between them. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. If it's the push for love, only one pair can actually thrive, both can't, or it's a case of they want to enact revenge upon the people that did them wrong. I'm really not sure. Would you like us to remind you of any red truths that might conflict with? Yes, if you may, because I remember there were things that were said in red post episode 1.
Just kids of about the same age.
That would be helpful. Time axis. Ava is being very adamant here, which is odd. Earlier you said you can't count out Genji as a culprit, but there was a red truth for game 1 that said Genji, Kumasawa, and Nanjo are not killers. They're not killers, but, you know, what else could they have done, you know? They could have still assisted in some sort of way.
He glared at Ava, offended. Objectively speaking, Ava was right. Even so, she glared at Ava as though
I gotta look in between the words sometimes. But this is a case of like what we witness, not what actually can be true. This is the perspective that we've been given, is that Shannon has had her face split. It may not have actually occurred. There's a lot of things that like are very much left open in episode 1. And that's why I feel like episode 1 is like a treasure trove of information that we could gather. Now, something else in this same line that Anonymous included was something from part 80, which I'd like to briefly look at, and then we'll jump back into episode 1, because I would like to look at all the deaths of episode 1 for sure. If not, I'm probably, again, not going to be able to get to everything here for this intermission, but if we can cover all the deaths in episode 1, and maybe some in episode 2, maybe even episode 3. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, like I said, very much the likeliness of a corpse that isn't even a corpse, a real person, but a fake death regardless. What is important to consider is the fact that, you know, I'm still focusing on Shannon, but I guess we can include Kraus as well. Shannon I focus on a lot here because of the whole, you know, sibling deal, but or the sibling battle. But it's also to like apply really believable makeup to just half of your face, and you know, the other half still good. It could still be you on the ground. It seemed like Battler was only looking at his parents mostly, or Kraus and or no, I'm sorry, not Kraus, Rudolph and Kyrie. I feel like those were the only two he was mostly looking at. What if, with Kanon being here, or even Genji, it's the same trick that we saw in episode 6, maybe, you know? Where, obviously, the chain is set.
Yeah, this is a special circumstance, honestly. Like, yeah, if this was just a normal trip, like it had meant to be.
But it was a swap of some sort. So this wasn't here. This was painted on the wall when they all dipped out. Could it have been a situation of like one of them, there was somebody in the room with them? It's not as restrictive, I don't think, that we saw in episode 6 where you have to set the chain lock from the inside. I'm sure you could have like pulled off some sort of trick, unless there's red truth that says otherwise. There could have still been somebody in that room when Kanun and Genji showed up. Or Kanun could have been in the room and Genji could have helped Kanun. I don't know. It's really hard to say. But then in that time frame of them going to go get supplies, this was drawn here. That or when they left, that is when somebody acted. There could absolutely be one of the quote-unquote corpses running around right now, after all. So there being stakes being used at this point leads me to believe that as we go forward, if there were multiple culprits, because there's a lot of reasons why people would really want to be killing, another person, fucked up family and all. I think at this point we have either a group of people on the same page or we have one person now committing the murders. Like, for sure at this point.
Dead, with some kind of weapon sticking out of her forehead.
Because of the stakes.
Our little child,
Hideyoshi was over in the bathroom.
Oh no, Hideyoshi.
And he got all fucked up. I forgot about that.
As to how he died of the forehead.
I really forgot about that one. Okay, whoever came in here and was like looking around, very easily could somebody have just slipped out from the closet, or they could have just stayed there. I don't think they searched the closet here, unless there's red truth that says that there was nobody else in the room whenever they first came here, or the second time they came here, or something.
George, oh boy.
I think there was a third individual in this room until they had the opportunity to run out. The only red truth for this murder, both deaths were homicides. Furthermore, the murder was carried out with both the victim and the perpetrator in the same room. No method exists for the perpetrator to kill from the outside. Okay, yeah, so very possibly we have the episode 6 situation, which could also be very similar to what was hinted in episode 5 with Natsuhi like hiding out in the closet because she was told to, and very simply somebody could have ran out from the closet. We did not have the opportunity to, or we didn't have the perspective that showed the closet. They never searched the closet, at least with what we just went back through. Right here. Right here. Because he won against Shannon, right? He's not furniture anymore, right? Right? Yeah, so none of this is being like, supposedly Battler from the very beginning was supposed to be like, he's our eyes and ears. What we see from him and everything, that we should be taken like very much so a lot more considerably. But here, yeah, like a lot of these scenarios, a lot of these deaths, even at the shed as we came up to it, Battler wasn't there whenever, it was first brought into scene. And we actually, as I was skimming through, Battler wasn't there for the second Twilight either. Oh, now Kumasawa is here. So since she felt like, okay, this is where I think we have like a poor concept of like time and everything. All of these events happen in the past, like whatever amount of minutes, but really all it was Kanun coming down here. He grabbed the axe. He said a few lines, supposedly, but then he got stabbed. And that was it. Like, Kumasawa was just too late. She hesitated for like half a minute at the very least. And that was way too long. That was it. So there was no like magical bullshit that supposedly occurred here. It was just he was caught off guard, stabbed, and that was it. Everyone had alibis or has alibis, including the dead. In short, no kind of human or dead person on this island could have killed Kanun. Kanun did not commit suicide. Kanun did not die in an accident. No, he was killed, but he wasn't killed by a dead person. He was killed by somebody that was alive. It's just that we haven't confirmed those who actually died. That's the problem. We confirmed that there's corpses. We have not confirmed that specific people have died. We make the assumptions that those people have died because of what they're wearing, or because half their face is smashed in and we didn't touch them to make sure that the other side of their face is still good or whatever. I think this was Shannon. I think this was Shannon here. I have had such an odd feeling about Shannon ever since we got done with episode 6. She is so cunning. She was able to completely fool us in episode 6. I do think that we have a case of Shanun pulling some wool over our eyes here. So Kanun lost. He did not win. He truly did die, and we can confirm that here too. I think looking at this is a good callback to the situation of, well, did the Battler of 6 years ago, like, does the Battler of 6 years ago equal the Battler of now? Everybody is surprised by the way Battler is now.
Nope, never mind. It got way worse. It got way fucking worse.
Isn't the see you again thing like, isn't that the line that Ange said at times? Crazy theory, but what if Battler of 6 years ago is the culprit and Battler of now is like, you know, he was just kind of set up to take his place because, you know, he wants, you know, a cool position and money and all that, and he just kind of studied up for it. Or maybe his parents were involved or something. There is something to highly consider about the fact of what happened 6 years ago. And that's such a huge thing that keeps on getting brought up, is this 6-year gap of no Battler where anything could have happened. And now we have a Battler here that nobody necessarily remembers. Nobody has had contact with Battler in 6 years. Even his parents, I'm pretty sure. So something is definitely up here that should be worth considering for sure. I just don't know what. That's my problem.
Yeah, where did this come from? That's my question.
Somebody put it there. Probably Maria. Maria probably just put it here. Like, I don't think this is like a huge thing. I feel like this one is like the easiest to manipulate. When nobody's looking, you put down an envelope, and Maria, being the child that she is, who's been all snarky since the beginning, she's going to play dumb. Like, come on, like, or she's not going to play dumb necessarily. She's just going to play the role that she has been. It's not going to seem odd, you know? So yeah, we have a letter here. So basically, whoever did the killings of the 3 servants that had to get like thrown in here, kept Maria alive. Maria interpreted the individual as Beatrice, and the other 3 died. If we're locking in on Maria as an accomplice, is that the case in all Twilights? How the culprit convinced her? I don't think it's the case in all Twilights. However, convincing her, remember what was said earlier here in the chat, it's more behavioral. And also cosplay, which is why I got to cosplay as Beatrice so I could fool you guys. But I think Maria's imagination is her weakness. And if you act in a specific way that jives with how she sees the world, then I think you can actually manipulate Maria. Maria, I think, is just... I think she is not an intentional accomplice, which I don't think I've brought up before. What if you're helping in a situation that you didn't actually want to help out in? You didn't think you were doing something necessarily evil. You were just doing something that you believed was right. And with Maria being so infatuated with the idea of magic and the Golden Witch Beatrice, then doing as she was told by somebody that she used her imagination really well with, or horribly with, was Beatrice, then there you go. But that also means she never intentionally lies. She's always telling what she believes is the truth. Exactly. I think that she truly believed situations that didn't actually make sense. It's the same thing with the umbrella and the letter. But then there's also the fact that if she was actually the one that put the letter there up in Kinzo's study with the 8 of them there, and then lied saying, I didn't do it, well, then there she goes. That she is intentionally lying. So we have a bit of a contradiction there. I mean, through episodes 3 and 4, we have come to find that Maria's imagination is insane, annoying, but I think another part that I missed is manipulative. Maria must be a really sad child if she can be convinced with the promises of the Golden Land, but we've seen a lot of her situation that, yeah, exactly. If she was manipulated here, which I think any of us could really just say, like, oh yeah, she was just doing as she was told, you know, for better or for worse. Probably the latter here. We could have come to that conclusion far, far, far in episode 1, but why I didn't necessarily keep that in mind, that she was like this manipulative, is actually insane. I feel like if that is actually the case, where she can just believe anything as long as it's coming from, the big Beatrice in the sky, then I feel like a lot of things could have happened because of her being manipulated. And she's not going to know any better because A, she's a child, and B, she's got this wicked imagination where her perspective is completely skewed based on certain situations. She will easily believe in anything that's magical. We go back to that ridiculous shit in episode 6 where she believed a magic trick was indeed magic for the stupidest of reasons. Like, it's child's play, quite literally.
Okay, never fucking keep on singing. Or maybe she was entranced. Because, like...
Fair. I even said it. She was entranced. But if you connect that to, like, okay, reality, I mean, the thing is, real people can believe things that they think that they're seeing correctly, but they are absolutely not. The mind can be tricked really easily, and especially as a child. Whoever the culprit was, let's say they actually spoke to Maria in this way, Where did they get a key? Of course, if they're a servant, they're going to have that master key. They're going to know where the keys are. Or they got a master key from somebody else that has been killed previously. Because I don't think keys were a focus in this episode. I think that was entirely overlooked until episode 2. So I feel like there was a lot of tomfoolery that was taken advantage of here. Well, definitely a servant. I want to say a servant. They have like the most pull. They have the most reason, I think, to want to strike back. But also, you can argue any of Kinzo's children have a reason to want to strike back against others and do a lot of these things. So you're saying Natsuhi sees magic because she's exhausted. The human mind, again, can be very, very much messed with. Either through another person, like what we're probably seeing with Maria here, or with being exhausted, with being mentally drained through, if you see so much insanity, like I'm sure if we were thrown into a situation where it was just death after death, all these things that can absolutely break the mind, you're going to start seeing shit. You aren't going to be able to apply logic as well as you had been. Your mind isn't going to be working well anymore. And I think this happens way more often than we think it does here. Like, sure, anime characters and all that, they're not real or whatever, but the story is written in a way to show that, yes, these are people, and these people are going through some shit. Did we ever see Kanun's corpse in episode 1? Yes, I think so. Do you think throwing around magic tricks is deliberate to get the last survivors into this state? Yeah, I think so. I think so. By doing things without showing, like, how the trick has happened and giving off that magic side, again, as we were shown in episode 6, if you're not looking, who knows how it's going down? Are those rats making the TV work or whatever? So with everybody in their very, like, last bits of mentality, anything could happen, and they could be easily manipulated. Everyone's just being manipulated in different ways. Maria's manipulation is just, well, she's dumb and her imagination is crazy, but everybody else, having gone through and seen what they've had to go through all in this single day, it has broken them. Everyone at this point has been broken. Yeah, I like that idea. And therefore, more things could be done. That is our connection with the toxin. That's it right there. If you have a lot of people together applying logic, you can kind of, quote unquote, heal others, right? You can actually, get everybody back on track and remind them, hey, logic and other rules of the world. But here, that's kind of gone out the window. Everybody has been broken down individually. That's our magic toxin. I think that's it. Getting everybody into a state where you can keep pulling off tricks. Okay, all right. Well, that's all. Goodbye. No, just call it there. Like, all right, I think I figured it out. Let's just start episode 7. Let's jump into... I want to get into... Let's see. Before you move on to episode 2, do a count of all the corpses that Battler has straight up observed in episode 1. So I want to say that he has definitely observed his parents, but I don't know about the other 4. I don't know if he even observed Shannon. I don't know if he's observed... did he observe Ava and Hideyoshi? He did look at Krause's. Thank you for letting... I'm not going back. I'm not going to go back and, like, skim through it. He has seen Kanon's. I guess, technically, they observed the very much dead and rotting body of Kinzo. And then, obviously, these last 3... Is that everybody? Did we... I think that's all the deaths. I'm pretty sure. So there's a lot that Battler himself did not observe. Quite a few that could have just slipped under the radar in some sort of fashion. But he absolutely looked at his parents, and I want to say that those deaths have been pretty much confirmed. I can't really see, like, their deaths being faked. I don't think that would work out. Kraus, okay, well, I guess not Kraus. Well, maybe Kraus, because only half of his face was messed up. Shannon, Goda. We don't talk about Goda as much. I mean, people meme on him, but maybe there's a reason for it. So this one gets explored pretty well, actually, with Rosa / Maria. Well, I think mostly Rosa being kind of set up with having access to the chapel here.
It will go away.
But Rosa was also here.
Actually, there's more
Yeah,
than 6 years.
she is here. Yeah, so that is interesting, Anonymous. This is a very interesting one where they actually, like, they moved to the chapel, supposedly there with Beatrice, yes. And it was Rosa that actually dipped out early, and then everybody else dies, which kind of paints, like, Rosa as a potential, like, suspect, which makes a whole lot of sense, actually.
With the, oh, no.
Rosa was also present when Beatrice
I don't think so.
fixed the broken
not in this
candy for
story, even though
Maria.
Steve in this story. When she approached even closer to them, she realized that there were snacks scattered all over the...
Well, that was just a case of, like, okay, it's a magic trick that they both kind of fell for, or it was a magic trick that wasn't obviously magic. Rosa didn't say anything but witnessed it, but then Maria, I mean, again, she was fooled, but you actually had a character of Beatrice.
Lord.
We were narrated, Rosa witnessed it, the encounter could have happened. Yeah, that's true. There are so many situations where we have a case where Battler's not the one that comes in and sees this shit. So, you know, take that as you will. The thing is that my dumbass kind of just takes things as it's, you know, presented to us, but anything could have happened here as we approach this scene. So, and I think I actually touched up on this as well, where we have this interesting scenario where, yes, Rosa is a fantastic actor, I'm sure, but I think we have an interesting scenario where at the end of the day, everybody is dead. And we kind of see this through Ange's perspective, is that there are many, many different ways that things could have gone down. There is just so many different variations of the story that could have happened. However, what can actually be true? You know, you have to kind of like look for the holes, sure, to figure out, you know, the issues with the story where the logic begins to fail, especially with magic being brought in when logic is hard to even follow in the first fucking place. But at the end of the day, everybody dies. You know, it could happen in many different ways, and I'm sure that's kind of what episode 4 was having us deal with. You know, that was a really tough one because everybody was dying in these insane ways, but Battler wasn't really there to witness any of those deaths. So just an interesting situation. So I just looked at the time. I am beginning to run out of time to handle all of my cases here of things that I want to do, except for Ava and Anch's timeline. Yes, that is true. That is like the one difference where 100% I think Ava, either through manipulation or herself, just choosing to do it, she was, 100% killing people in episode 3. But we're going to move on to the next thing that I had planned. It is insane just how much there is here to yeah, I know. I finally came out with a killer theory. That's so cool. I've never done that before. I want to say that we've made progress here. I do want to look at the red truths that had been presented to me in my Discord by Liz. They went through the trouble of getting those from the wiki, albeit I don't think I have context, but I'd like to just kind of quickly skim through those. Then I want to look at like one more thing that I had prepared. And then if there's like one or two more things that you guys want me to absolutely look at here, we can. And then over the next week, I have to decide if I want to do another intermission. These are the red texts or the red truths that have been presented to us throughout the story. Again, no context, so I might kind of miss some things here, but I do want to kind of like go through here, and I'll try to I'm gonna have to review these as well after. If we do another intermission, I'm gonna have to review these again anyways. When I speak the truth, I will use red. Everything I speak in red is the truth. Well, I don't know about that because it gets kind of abused, I think, even later in episode 2, where she's like calling Battler dumb, which, maybe that is the truth. Regardless of whether they were living or dead, the 6 definitely entered through the door. Okay, that's to the chapel. Only one key to the chapel exists, which was in Rose's possession. It is impossible to unlock the lock to the chapel with anything but the chapel's key. Okay. All right. That I'm pretty sure we talked about that a fair bit. When the door to the chapel is locked, it prevents any and all methods of entry or exit. But if it's unlocked, could you just like dive in through the window for some fucking reason? The 6 definitely entered through this front door. This morning, Rosa definitely took an envelope out of Maria's handbag and from that obtained the genuine key to the chapel. Okay. This morning, Rosa definitely took an... Okay, I already read that. The key to the chapel truly was the object inside the envelope I gave Maria. Okay, so it was when they met and did the magic trick with the candy. The envelope that I handed over to Maria and the one Rosa opened are the same. Okay, I recall those. The only master keys are the ones held by the servants, 1 key each, which we can reflect that back on episode 1, by the way. There are absolutely no types of hidden doors. This door is the only way in or out. The only way to lock this... Okay, this was Jessica's room. Jessica's single key are the master keys, only one of which is held by each servant. Okay, so yeah, I was right. Like I said earlier, we're getting into the key situation here, which really added a whole new thing. Window is locked from the inside. Kanun was killed in this room. Okay, so we can confirm that Kanun died. This is another case where we can interpret that Kanun has lost his battle yet again in this one. If we want to see that there's always a battle between Kanun and Shannon in each episode, Kanun has yet again lost. Or at least I'm arguing that he's lost. Now 2 in a row here. Okay, let's move on here. Oh, the wolves and sheep puzzle, which definitely gets brought up more often. Okay, so again, killed in his room. No hidden doors in this room, that is following along with Nox. I am remembering Nox. There's no way to get in or out of the room other than the door and the windows, no hidden doors. For the rest of the murders in episode 2, Battler heavily handicapped himself, but by pushing all the blame on the extra person because he didn't want to feel betrayed. That's true. I remember that. Yeah. That dumbass. Maybe Beatrice was right. Okay, so this is the servant room. Kept in the key box. They're all in the key box. Entry or exit is impossible except for the single door. Of course, there's not going to be any hidden doors. The door and the window do not permit any kind of entry or exit when they are locked. Impossible to unlock the door without a servant room key or the master key. No one in this room except your group. Your group refers to Battler, George, Maria, Rosa, Genji, Goda, and Shannon. I got to review this because I got to know who's alive and dead and everything. We did a really good review of episode 1, but goddamn, that takes time. When Jessica's corpse was discovered, only Battler, George, Maria, Genji, Goda, Shannon, Kumasawa, and Nanjo were in Jessica's room. Jessica is also included. Therefore, both in the case... Yeah, I'm going to have to, like, review this. And look, she's just laughing in this. You are incompetent, and then laughs in red. If you accept me, all of the riddles will be resolved. With my power, any kind of closed room can be created or destroyed. That's true, actually. Like, probably at the time when we were going through that moment, you know, I didn't really know what was going on because she's, like, laughing and everything with the Red Truth as well and calling him dumb. But... yeah, if you accept Beatrice, if you understand Beatrice's shit, then yeah, of course you can construct this. Everything spoken in red is true at the time when it was said, and as long as some interpretation of each word or... yeah, exactly. Okay. I'll make you my favorite furniture. I'll love you so much and make you my toy until you turn to ashes. That's a statement. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. There are only 5 master keys. There are only 5 master keys. I keep my promises. I don't really know what the context was in that, actually, but Natsuhi's room was exactly the same, just like usual. The door and the windows were locked from the inside. There were no fraud or tricks, no means of secret passages, of course, with knocks. Natsuhi's own key was in George's pocket. Okay, this was with the George and Shannon case. Laughing in red is the most important clue, I swear. Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. But also, she has kind of the same laughter that she did there, that little cackle. It's the same thing that we see from Maria's, so I guess I should keep that in mind as well. Parlor is the same. The key to the parlor itself sealed away. Okay. Definition of a closed room remains the same as always. Okay, here we go. Episode 3. All of the doors that exist on Rokkenjima, none has a crack through which a key can slip. Let's see. Oh, that was the prologue. I have the power to speak the truth in red. Was that being said by Renove? Renove was introduced in episode 3, right? A hidden mansion called Kuadorian does exist in the forest of Rokkenjima. Okay, yeah, it's showing who... okay, I see. Belphegor actually used red in the prologue there. In the past, the pair actually had a conversation like that in this place. The pair refers to Kinzo and Human Beatrice. Human Beatrice does exist. That is a real character. This is the world of 1967. We did have the prologue, and I reviewed it in the previous intermission, and I feel very confident in what I was talking about there, whatever the fuck I said. Okay, so Human Beatrice did die. No more than 18 humans on this Rokkenjima. Like, obviously there's 17, like, total always, because Kinzo is actually dead, but in this interpretation of the story. Battler doubled down on there being infinite amount of extra people, so Beatrice shut down that argument. Right, right. All the doors and windows on the 6... oh, that's right. Oh, the linked closed rooms. Yes. Yes, I remember this. And we were getting somewhere, too. There was no means of locking the doors and windows of those 6 rooms without the keys. These 6 are all dead. Okay, so they are confirmed dead. Kinzo already, like, will always be dead. Like, he is always dead. But Genji... so, could we have had an empty room? No, he was there. Oh, that's right. In this one, it was like... it was all the staff, basically, and Kinzo. That's how it all went down. Except for Nanjo. Well, Nanjo's not necessarily staff. There's no one hiding in the 6 rooms. The 6 died instantly. Only the victims are inside the rooms, and no other people exist inside the rooms. That was Renove. The 6 were not killed by traps. None of the 6 committed suicide. So it was definitely a death of some sort. Like, they definitely died due to the cause of another person. But again, there's more ways that we can interpret that, and I brought that up, I think, even in previous predictions and my previous video or my previous intermission video. Okay. Oh, we have a lot of crazy stuff coming up here. Rosa and Maria died. The causes of death were as Nanjo diagnosed. Rosa's and Maria's deaths were homicides. And I was in the room the whole time, both before and after the time of the crime, used by Hideyoshi. Oh, okay. Before and after the time of the crime. But what about during? You know, that's kind of an important like thing to consider there, Hideyoshi. Like, did you just join your wife in killing people? Like, what's going on, you know? Oh, in the manga, Eva did not kill Hideyoshi. That's interesting. That's a whole new one. Kyrie didn't think that, I'll probably honestly forget that little verbiage there, but Kyrie didn't think that they needed food. She claimed that they should. That's right. So somebody reminded me, actually, I think it was here in episode 6, that Kyrie was kind of like coerced into going to the mansion. She acted in a way that she would not normally act. Battler kind of managed to handle Ava Beatrice well enough. I wish Ava Beatrice just ended here in this episode or never existed. I hate Ava Beatrice so much. The reason she changed her mind was not passed to anyone, nor was it written down until the last instant before she died. Her behavior pattern of not going to get food equals not going to the mansion was maintained. Nanjo's death. Okay, this is important. After Jessica was injured, Ava, this is the very end of the story. Ava was constantly under Battler's supervision. Battler is neither the culprit nor an accomplice. But the fact that an accomplice exists is very much certain here in this one. By this, we can establish a perfect alibi for Ava. There are no more than 18 humans on this island. No life forms other than humans have any connection to this game. Hinzo Kraus, Natsuhi Hideyoshi, George Rudolph, Kyrie Rosa, Maria Genji, Shunun Kanun, Goda Kumasawa, and Nanjo. Those 15 are all dead. But Battler, Ava, and Jessica are all alive. Ava was with you the whole time, so committing a crime was impossible for her. Of course, Battler-kun isn't the culprit. He wasn't forging an alibi for her, and he took the possibility that she was the culprit into account, watching her actions carefully. No chance existed for her to do anything suspicious. In short, at the time of the crime, only Nanjo and Jessica were in the servant room. I definitely, poses some questions there on Jessica, of course. But yeah, this episode, I want to say we kind of like, we have a very strong theory and everything here in this one. Jessica had not committed murder. Beatrice solved this one in Battler's stead, having him not hear it as it would have. Yeah, that's right. I remember that's how the game ended. Neither Ava nor Battler killed Nanjo, nor were they involved. But Jessica's not a killer either. The culprit who killed Nanjo was neither Battler nor Ava nor Jessica. Jessica's eyes were completely covered, so murder was impossible. No actions caused by Jessica's body had any relation to or influence on the murder of Nanjo. This also applies to Battler and Ava. A weapon was ready and he was killed with it from point-blank range in front of him. The culprit appeared openly before Nanjo's eyes, and as they both looked at each other's faces, the culprit killed him. And the red only tells the truth. Supposedly. Absolutely no factors other than humans participated in this game board in response to the suggestion that animals are... Okay, I see. The one who killed Nanjo was definitely a human with their feet on the ground, held up a weapon and killed with it right before his eyes. How the red truths were given, though, but also the idea of changing your identity. It's the same as Battler's escape in episode 6. Solving the mystery is the answer to the main mystery. We have the ideas of changing your identity, who you're being referred to as, the whole idea of swapping places with people. I don't think works really well here. But there was somebody in front of Nanjo, and that's being stated, is that there was a person in front of him that killed him, but in red it's saying not Ava, not Battler, and not Jessica. Could you argue Ava Beatrice, therefore Ava who is like manipulated or is like not actually herself committing the murder and therefore just kind of getting away with it? It's the way that you have to say it, and even Erica was trying to grab all the different corners to make sure she wasn't missing an actual person here. 6 years ago, no person called Beatrice existed for me. Okay, we know that for fact. Beatrice wasn't around with Battler. The sin I am now... Okay, this is Beatrice. The sin I am now demanding that you remember is not between Battler and Beatrice. That we know. Battler has a sin, and people die because of the sin. And I talked about this before, too. We went over this whole scene in the previous intermission as well, because it was very important. And due to your sin, a great many humans on this island die. No one escapes, all die. But the thing is, and like I said, it's like, oh, I go back in time and accidentally step on a butterfly, and now we go back to the future, and everything is fucked up. Like, things could have been fucked up regardless. Like, you know, point A to point B, and, you know, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. In episode 4, if everyone thought Kinzo was in front of him, the red would allow him to say that Kinzo is alive and Kinzo is dead at the same time with no difference. Yeah, that's why I'm thinking that we have a case of, like, manipulating the ideas of how people are being perceived, the identities of which they have. So you could say anybody was right there in front of him and that they were just using a completely different identity. Let's say it's Shannon yet again, you know, going at it, you know? Let's say that she's our culprit, like how I'm predicting that she's our culprit in episode 1. She could still be doing the same thing here. However, she could be both alive and dead, just using a completely different alias. She could have completely changed her name. Actually, there's our big idea. You know, we could just be utilizing their actual names for both Kanon and Shannon. I feel like a lot of things can be done actually here because Shannon could be dead. However, we actually have the identity, the real name for both Shannon and Kanon. So there's also that to consider too. So I wanted to bring up, at the request of Quezip, this was the comment that he left for me on my last video. He said, let's see. Red truth is always true, but it can be misleading, of course. Yeah, so this is the reason why he's not here, is because, you know, work, life, we all live it. So he left some timestamps for us to check out real quick. Yeah, let's just go check him out real quick, and I guess we'll call it here for this one. It's like he kind of just abducted somebody, you know? Like, he kind of just took somebody and, like, imposed this, like, lore upon them. Oh, wait, did I not, like... Oh, sorry, guys. I forgot. I need to, like, get rid of the image here on the screen. What we can, like, infer from this specifically is that, I mean, yes, human Beatrice exists. Whether or not Rosa actually came across human Beatrice, it's uncertain, but then human Beatrice 100% dies. And Beatrice does not deny the existence whatsoever of this individual. Yeah, I remember the homunculus idea. So something else to consider is that prologue, you know, Virgilia or Kumasawa or whoever the fuck she is just doing a magic trick. Just a little trick to make whoever it was that she was talking to, whether it was a young Ava or a young human Beatrice, think that, oh, hey, look, magic is real, and I'm going to study underneath you, or whatever. I remember that we talked about that in the previous intermission, and I should really go back on that. But somebody that isn't Battler isn't going to know of this sin.
I wonder if something actually did happen.
Or
Here.
Battler, the Battler we know here killed the original Battler. Yeah, wait a minute. What if that is the case? You know, like, what if you had a situation of a replacement because Battler wanted what whoever Battler was 6 years ago had? And what if it was a situation like that? I already know what the sin is. I do? Did I talk about it? If I talked about it, then woo, I'm dumb. Some YouTuber went over the witch epitaph with a map like Ava did and figured out what the word. Really? That's so cool, actually. What the fuck? That's so sick. Did we ever get a red truth that like verified that this like child existed in some way?
Baby.
Well, like I said, TJ, I think it's a case where like I think that failure to remember something is the sin. So like, well, I guess what we can consider anonymous is that we have a situation where we have, let's say that child didn't die. That child actually was able to be raised in secrecy or whatever, the Kuadorian or whatever. And if the child was male, let's say that this person grew up same age-ish to Battler, but then replace Battler, you know? There's a situation where we have our current Battler not being able to recall specifically. It's like there's not remembering things, and then there's trying to pretend that you're somebody, but obviously you can only do that to a certain extent because you don't have the memories that make that person who they are. So obviously, you're not going to remember how certain people were the way they were 6 years ago because, well, you didn't have that perspective 6 years ago. If there's a hint to give, ask yourself why the gold belongs to Beatrice as whoever uses the name. I always like, I don't think too much about the gold, which I think kind of like, you know, I think we covered a fair amount. And I'm satisfied regardless. I feel like, especially reviewing episode 1 the way we did, I feel confident, strangely enough. Is that weird? Is that weird to feel confident for once? The ideas that we've been presented, the ideas of how we can kind of trick these closed rooms, because magic tricks are, at the end of the day, just tricks. You're just not looking. Your you know, your sight, your other senses aren't necessarily where they need to be in order to understand immediately. The idea of the identities, these extra names, the kanon versus shannon. I feel like we've been given so many very, very regular hints and routines, I guess. Oh, I'm certain I'm wrong on a lot of things, but I still feel happy regardless, you know? One odd detail that was nonchalantly mentioned is the placement of the autumn card in Natsuhi's room in episode 5. I was wondering if we were going to get something out of that from episode 1, but it was just the mirror. Thank you all for watching the stream, the episode that comes from the stream. If you're watching the episode, by the way, feel free, if you want, to join the membership or Patreon, and you'll be able to watch the whole session. It'll be made available for those that join on the membership or subscribe on Patreon. You can absolutely watch the whole thing because I can't keep everything for the actual video. That's going to get cut down significantly, but there was a lot covered, and I feel happy. I feel confident, even if I'm way off base still. I still feel like, you know, we did some good here. We did some good. Thank you to everybody that showed up, everybody that provided any sort of input or help, because goddamn, we all know I need it. And I will look into doing another intermission, but this might be it. Mostly because this is, 1, very time consuming. 2, I want to jump into episode 7. And 3, I don't even know if I have a third point, to be honest. Like, I just, I feel at some point I'm just going to be going into circles, and my mind isn't just going to be able to latch onto a lot unless I'm being explicitly told things, and I don't want that to happen. So, I've got some pretty strong ideas, and by strong, I could mean weak, hard to say. But we'll take it, we'll run with it, and we'll see what happens. But thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe so you guys are ready for the continuation of the playthrough proper. And again, thank you to everybody that showed up to the stream. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy.